Hi, Diana. Can you hear me? Hi, Mike. Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
I can.
Yeah, Bonnie, I got you too.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Vonnie. I don't know if you got my text message or not, but disregard it.
I was just reading it.
All right, I'm seeing 6 o'clock on the clock on the wall, so welcome all. Director King, Burnett, Pimlotz, myself. Guy is not going to be here with us this evening. And I see Suzanne is hooking up right now. Vonnie, oh.
And I expect Paul Burns, he did get back to me after I sent a reminder today. So
You anticipated my question. Thank you.
there he is.
Hi, Paul.
He's just connecting.
Okay. All right. So this is our organizational time just to talk about things. And the only thing we really have is an update on OSA and sports right now. And just reminded everybody the meeting has not officially begun. So we're not making any decisions, but we are hearing from our staff about, all right, my phone is connecting and disconnecting in my ear. So Mr. Griskoyak, do you have an update for us, or did you have someone to delegate that to?
Oh, no, I can take that. I've already
Okay.
spoken with the athletic directors. So let me go to the, let me go to my screen, share. All right, so Kitty, you're in the way. All right, so let me pick. So, come on. Kitty. Sorry, she's needy right now. Obviously the OSAA has amended operations for this upcoming year. And in essence, the school sports season would start in late December with the winter sports, swimming, wrestling, basketball. From there, after running a short kind of truncated season, we would actually put the fall sports in the middle: cross country, volleyball, soccer, football, and then end the year with golf, tennis, track field, baseball, softball, the traditional spring sports. So in this, and let me zoom in a bit, we also have again, an activities period, again, where we'll have the competition levels for the other activities laid out, where there'll be a period for cheerleading, dance, drill, speech, solo music, band, choir across the year. In looking at the seasonal piece to this is that really things start again in what they're calling season 2. We're going to do season 2, season 1, and then season 3. We're going to go winter, fall, spring. And so each season will have a 2-week practice period, 7 competition weeks, and then a wrap up kind of culminating tournament week for that season. When the winter season is in its culminating week, we'll begin the practice weeks for the fall season. So there's a little bit of overlap with the culminating and contest dates for cross country, volleyball, football, soccer. And then in the same pattern follows, again, 2 weeks of practice, 7 competition weeks, and then a culminating week, and finally into the spring season, which for us will be track and field, baseball, softball, running from, in essence, mid-April through the end of June, pushing that out a little bit longer. Right now, basically beginning from 8/31 up until 9/28, it's kind of the school's discretion as to what is available for any sort of regulated practice or activity. In meeting with the other superintendents in the county, we've already had some preliminary discussions that until it is safe enough to bring students onto campus, even in a hybrid mode, we wouldn't allow for any regular organized activities on campus. If coaches want to set up a workup schedule for kids to do on their own, that's fine. But again, we need to get school off and running first before we really dive back into athletics. Middle school athletics are following the same pattern as well. And they'll make some more decisions when they get a little bit closer. They also play a bit of a shortened season anyways, and they would follow the same basic pattern as high school. Again, winter sports, a short fall season, and then a spring season if health requirements allow. So that's really the kind of the overview. Again, we're talking about 8/31 being the first practice date. And again, with the qualifying dates being, in, March, April, May, June, we're kind of taking that off the board, and our coaches have already kind of talked, and I think they're in agreement that we're just putting a pause on things until October. Again, by that point in time, we should have a better idea of where we are in terms of being able to bring students on campus, possibly for some limited in-person instruction. And we're not going to put athletics ahead of academics or safety.
Okay.
And that's really the general overview. Again, it's really hard to run a football team, which is a defined contact sport, or even a basketball team, which is a defined contact sport, when you can't be within 6 feet of somebody. Little difficult to run a man-on-man defense in, I guess if everybody had to be 6 feet away, there wouldn't be any 3 in the key calls. Nobody gets trapped in the paint. But that's all my basketball jargon that I have.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. G. Does anybody have any questions about that? Or, it's pretty clear to me, but wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Only, the other piece I could do here, since we're just doing general overview work. Let me throw this screen up again. So there's been a lot of talk about the health metrics, and I just took what what we have for data so far since we've been measuring it this way, and kind of plotted it out in a graph that kind of represents our area. Again, we can't really get to a full hybrid mode until the county case rate is below 10. And so in the last 5 measurements we've had, everything's been well above. Then looking at the same idea for test positivity, our county is in orange. The threshold is 5, but the state metric also has to be below 5 as well. So it is this metric here that pretty much has all but one county in the state opening in comprehensive distance learning. And actually what's going to be more helpful is more expansive testing, so people can actually find out how far infection is in the community. Again, superintendents in the county, we meet with Lane County Public Health twice a week. And one of the discussions we have is really looking at not only the metrics, but the sporadic infection rate. Because when we get to certain, types of, exceptions for limited in-person instruction or potential younger grades coming back to campus a little bit early, one of the things that negates that is having a high sporadic infection rate, which kind of shows general community spread. And so let me pull this across. And again, so everybody is starting in comprehensive distance learning, and this may help people understand the metrics a bit better. And so again, we're starting out in comprehensive, and we would be following this green path. Schools must be in a county that is no longer in baseline phase. We're still in the 1-2 group. And so again, school district that draws, we only draw primarily from one county, but we need to follow the Lane County metrics. And so we need 3 clean weeks of data with a case rate being less than 10 and a positivity rate being less than 5. And the state positivity rate has to be less than 5% in the preceding 3 periods. And for us, they've gone through and already taken out the exceptional cases that might be for a detention facility or somewhere that might have a high artificial rate just because of confinement. Now, the metrics also work the other way, is that if the numbers start going back up, we need to be ready to transition back into comprehensive distance learning once the case rate approaches 20 per 100,000, or test positivity creeps up to 7.5%. And then everybody's back to comprehensive distance learning without any exceptions if your case rate is at 30 or higher, or test positivity is 10% or higher. And so this is kind of the game that everybody's working on is, do we have 3 clean weeks of data? And we don't. And even when you look at this at a micro level, really the issue becomes, people kind of debating about whether or not Florence is separate from the rest of the county. Again, if we apply the same standard and metric, again, one case in our school district is the equivalent of 10 per 100,000. So if we were looking at it on a small scale, one person, in the school community would cause us to trigger the county metrics. And if we're at 2 or more, we're going back out to comprehensive distance learning. Again, part of the reason, again, and talking with, health officials and state officials, is that, we live in an area where there's a lot of natural commuter travel for work. people in Florence work in Newport, they work in Coos Bay, they work in Eugene. And so they are going back and forth. As well, again, we have a good tourist industry here in Florence, and if you've been out in town, you've seen, license plates from Florida to Alaska over the last couple of days. And so, again, these are all things that will, hit our metrics. And again, looking at the metric piece, we had a little recent spike in here, and that spike was enough to account for half of the county need to be over metric for 3 weeks. It's going to be wherever that sporadic transmission hits, and if it's with people going back and forth, or some other reason, it's going to happen, and it's kind of predictable. It's when people aren't following physical distancing, hygiene, mask rules, and again, not that I'm telling anybody how to live their life, but if we want to get back to regular life faster, taking those health recommendations seriously is probably the best way to do it. Within this, also kind of following the metrics here, again, limited in-person instruction, which is kind of the bridge between comprehensive distance learning and your hybrid mode. And you can't even apply for this until you have, 2 weeks of confirmed operations without a COVID-19 case on staff. So when we're starting the school year, September 14th. So until we're able to measure the metrics for those 2 weeks that end up and start the 28th, we don't even have enough data to know that if we can bring in the small groups of 10 or fewer for 2 hours at a time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. G. Hey, I wanted to cover one thing real quick before we start the meeting, just to let everybody know one way I like to handle meetings. I know it's difficult doing votes on Zoom, and my intention is if when we get a motion and a second and then to take action on the motion, I'm going to ask for a voice vote to start with, and I'll ask for ayes and I'll ask for nays. If anybody is not comfortable with that at any time, just speak up and just ask for a voice vote. Don't be shy about it. But I think it'd be a little easier on Vonnie by doing that, and it, save a little bit of time on the long run. But when you get ready to take a vote, I'm just going to ask for a voice vote for ayes and nays, and then move on from there. But don't hesitate if you don't like it. I had one other thing I wanted to talk about real quick before we get started, and that's our goal setting session. It's tentatively set for the 26th of August. And we're in discussions. I'm going to follow up and with Paul and Mr. Gruskowiak. Can't do it tomorrow, but hopefully Friday or Monday at the latest. But we have talked with Walt Hanlon's office. He's not available that day, but he has an associate who is available to lead us in a 4-hour workshop that evening. We also have somebody, Vince Adams from OSBA, who is available that night as well. There's a considerable cost difference between the two of them, and I know last year we paid pretty good price for Walt Hanlon, but it was well worth it. I think everybody agrees. So I'll be in communication with everybody on what we have planned for that. So in the meantime, if you have something specific that you'd like to cover during that, send me an email or give me a phone call or write it on a note, tie it around a rock and throw it through my window, whichever you prefer. So, is there anything else we need to discuss organizationally before we get going? If not, we can take about a 12-minute break and resume at 6:30. Does that sound all right to everybody? I don't see everybody jumping to unmute, so yeah, I see some thumbs up. All right. Thank you, Paul. You couldn't show me the thumbs up, Paul. So, all right. So I'm gonna let you look at the side of my laundry basket for a few minutes, and or maybe the underside of my shelf. How's that? There you go. And we'll be back in about 10 or 11 minutes. So. It's so quiet when everybody has their microphones on mute. Well, by my clock, I show 6:30. So if everybody is accommodating, then I would like to call the meeting to order for this evening. I keep trying to use my cursor to manipulate the agenda that's on the screen, and it's not. Anyway, the August 12th, 2020 meeting of Siuslaw School District 97J Board of Directors is hereby called to order. And may we start with a roll call vote, please, Bonnie?
Okay, do we have Suzanne Manheims? Suzanne?
I see her moving her lips.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I couldn't find mute. I was clicking on the wrong little microphone. Oops.
Okay, and Paul Burns?
Here.
John Barnett? John Barnett?
John, are you with us? We see you.
John's here.
Okay, and Diana Pimlott
Yes.
and Dennis King.
Here.
And Guy Rosenbaum is absent tonight. He let us know he wasn't going to make it.
All right. And I am here.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
And I do believe I got my audio issue figured out, so I am officially here.
All right, good enough. By the way, our mission is motivating and preparing all students to reach their greatest potential. I'd like to welcome everybody who's watching us on YouTube and who is joining us. We have some administration joining us here on Zoom. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So do we have any? The motion, or the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda unless somebody has some amendments to make. Your pleasure, folks.
Mr. Chair, do you want Andy to introduce the agenda before we make a
well, I'm
resolution?
sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Gaskowiak. Would you like to do that?
Sure. Item 081220-3.4, approval of the agenda. Administration recommends approval of the agenda as presented.
All right. So, is there a motion?
Now, Mr. Chair, be it resolved that the Siuslaw School District Board of Directors approve the agenda as presented. Resolution 081220-3.4, approve agenda.
Second.
All right. Motion made by Director Manheims and second was by Director Barnett. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Well, hearing none, I will ask all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Is there any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to public comment. Mrs. McClellan, did we have any requests for public comment this evening? I didn't see any.
No, I did not receive any.
You had to stop and think there. You thought I was talking to your mother-in-law, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Moving on then to the next item is the consent agenda, Mr. Gruskowiak.
Okay, consent agenda, consent business. item 081220-6. This month's consent agenda contains the following items: the July 29, 2020 board minutes, the July 2020 financial statement, the June 2020 updated financial statement, the enrollment currently still fixed at second quarter ADM, and then second readings on policies IGBAH, special education, evaluation, and eligibility, IGBAH-AR, special education, evaluation, and eligibility procedures, and then policy IIABB, use of feature films and or videos. Administration recommends approval of the consent agenda as presented. If there's an individual item, the board may pull that from the consent agenda for discussion as a separate item later.
All right. What's your pleasure, directors? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Chair, this is Diana. Be it resolved that the Siuslaw School District Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as presented. Resolution 081220-6, consent agenda.
Second.
A motion made by Director Pimlott, seconded by Director King, to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All right, I'll ask for all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please signify by saying nay. All right, motion carries unanimous. Moving on to the next item then. We have no reading of first readings of policies. We've already handled the second. So the student calendar, Mr. Griskoyak.
Okay. Now, what you have in your packet is actually a bit outdated in terms of coloring, simply because we got some significant updates yesterday from the Department of Ed. And so really what's being approved here is the delay of class until the first day on the 14th for some planning time to help get our distance learning efforts rolled out. And what we're doing is that we originally had a schedule planned for, in essence, a 4-day week with a recovery day, because we were planning on having some different parameters to work with. And then, of course, that did change yesterday a bit. And so I'm going to share my screen here real quick. So the only difference that you have in terms of your calendar is that there's no designated day for an assistance day on Wednesdays. Looking at our instructional model and some of the commentary from some of the public input sessions, we're going to be scheduling office hours or applied learning time, assistance time, every Monday through Thursday in the afternoon, and one day a week early evening, like 5 to 7 or 4 to 6. So the only difference you have from your calendar is the greens on Wednesday. Students will attend in these configurations on every day that is this kind of salmon-y color. And it actually drives our instructional hour count up from what we originally had in trying to have that assistance day in the middle.
Okay.
This is one piece I couldn't get delivered, but again, what's being approved here, which is different from what we originally had approved back in April is a delayed start until September 14th. And this schedule currently eliminates the early release because students aren't on campus.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any technical questions? All right. Hearing none, if somebody would like to make a motion on this.
Mr. Chair, be it resolved that the Siuslaw School District Board of Directors approve the revised 2020-21 student calendar as presented, resolution number 081220-7.3, revised 2020-21 student calendar.
Second,
Motion made by Director Burns, seconded by Director Mann-Heinz. And I'm just going to throw a comment on here. I'm sure all of us understand that this is not likely to be the final draft of this year because everything's in a state of flux. But essentially, what I heard Mr. Gruszkowiak say was the calendar we already approved in April differs from this, from the fact that we moved the delayed start to the 14th and eliminating the early release. And go on from there. So the motion, is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Burns.
Mr. Gruszkowiak, you mentioned something about there's been a little grief with some of our union folks about the calendar. Could you explain what's going on there?
Well, again, we're kind of flying fast with a lot of the changes coming from ODE. And so we've been trying to keep staff in the loop as much as possible. And so, again, just trying to get everybody on kind of the same information at the same time in a consistent schedule has been a little bit difficult. A lot of what we're doing is trying to take some of the childcare and health concern issues off the board with going to comprehensive distance learning. And so there's got to be a flex in there where we have the ability to meet students and parents when it's convenient for those groups as well. And so we sent this schedule to teaching union leadership today. And in essence, when we look at our schedule, we need a daily schedule that fits our limited in-person instruction possibility starting in October before we can get to a hybrid model. And so in essence, the high school would have a day that wraps up around noon, in this case, 12:15. So we would have basically a block schedule. This allows us to control the transitions when students get back into the building. One of the big changes from yesterday was cohort size was reduced from 100 to 50. So that means we have to have at least twice during the day situations where students remain in the classroom for 2 periods, where they're remoting in to another classroom in the building when they're in the hybrid mode. And this schedule model helps us meet that. It also provides us plenty of applied learning time. So if there's students that don't need extra assistance, they don't have to take advantage of it, but those that do, there'll be a 2-hour block of that scheduled 4 days a week. Now, for the high school, this balances because we would do an A day, 1, 2, 4, 6 lunch, and then B day, 1, 3, 5, 7 in lunch. And over a 2-week period, everybody gets, there's 5 A's and 5 B's across the 2 weeks. Now, in the middle school, we apply the same idea here. And again, this is what's driving the calendar, is we're going to adopt the same basic philosophy, and we're going to do the core 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this works in both the comprehensive distance learning mode and the hybrid mode. It gives us the ability to control the cohort size. Now, you need math, English, science, social studies as your 4 basics to get. There's going to be some students that have some other needs, and they're looking at other supplemental programs. And so we would move all of the electives or PE or applied learning time to the outer portion of the day. And teacher prep would be one of those periods out in this portion of the day. And again, we're trying to get a one common time for every teacher to post, so they have ability to have parent and family communication in the evening. Applying this to the elementary school, again, 9 to 11:30 for core instruction. Then we've got a prep transition break, lunch, make sure everybody can get to a lunch stop and back. Or if we're in hybrid mode, it's going to take longer to rotate kids through classrooms and make delivery. And then those afternoons, part of the time teacher would be in prep or applied learning time while their group is in a music or a PE rotation. Right? Now, what we're asking for and have sent to the teachers union is you pick a day, either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it is, when you can schedule a time in the late afternoon or early evening, 4 to 6 or 5 to 7, so that you can be available when parents and students have questions. So again, this is just a sample draft. This could be an elementary teacher who on Mondays does prep from 1 to 2, has applied learning from 2 to 3. On Tuesdays, they're available for parents and students, by Google or by phone from 4 to 6. Wednesdays, APL and prep. Thursdays for this person would be APL or prep, unless they wanted to do 5 to 7. And then on Friday, there's going to be no regular applied learning time scheduled as kind of the compensation for having a longer day, having a break, and then picking up 2 hours to do this. And so again, in a more simplistic form, a teacher might work 1 to 3, 1 to 3, and then 5 to 7 for APL. So from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, they're on their own. And then 1 to 3 and Friday, no scheduled AP time, just prep to fill out their contractual week. You could see this, the same way. Now, after we get 2 weeks of solid data on COVID not spreading in the student or staff population, we have the ability to bring groups of 10 in for limited in-person instruction for up to 2 hours. And that's why the APL time is scheduled from 1 to 3. That would be the maximum amount of time we could bring students in to do welding or art or some other specialty program that they normally can't do in the regular schedule. So again, this could be, the auto shop teacher. On Mondays and Tuesdays from 1 to 3, he has a group of 10 working in the shop, a different group of 10 working in the shop on Tuesday. Wednesday nights from 5 to 7, he's got APL with students and families. Thursday, 1 to 3, Friday, downtime, getting ready for next week. And so that's the reason, again, why the Wednesday Google Day went away.
All right. Did that answer your questions, Mr. Burns?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Director King, you look like you're poised to ask something.
Just ready to vote.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for all those in favor to please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay.
Sorry,
Very
I didn't hear that we had a motion.
We
had
did
a
before we,
motion before?
yes, we did.
Sorry, okay,
Yeah.
aye.
All right. We'll reflect that. I didn't hear any opposition, so motion carries unanimous, and thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, moving to the approval of operational blueprints. So Mr. Griskoyak, once again. If you're talking, you're muted.
Finally,
Sure.
I was quiet because I did mute myself. No, item 7.4 with yesterday's ODE meeting is this is a review and it does not require a board vote. And so, Vonnie, do you have the, can you put up the SES operational? Can you click one tab over? There you go. And so again, you can see that this document says it was updated 7/29. Yesterday, again, part of what we received was, and let me share my screen here, let me take this to screen 2 and share and throw this on. So what you're going to be looking at in the operational guides that the administrators submitted earlier in the week is, since we're opening in comprehensive distance learning, district information, instructional model to be used will be CDL. And then the only things that we're really looking at tonight is comprehensive distance learning. And again, this plan would be the instructional model initially planned for first quarter. And we're only completing these sections for submission for the 17th. So let me drop that and see. Vonnie, can you go back to the model you put up for the elementary building? So can you scroll down now, Vonnie? Oh, yeah. So we just start at the top of that page. Perfect. Okay. So these items are similar for all 3 buildings. Again, decision made by Lane County Health Authority, actually Oregon Health Authority, communications do not permit on-site or hybrid learning. Again, we're at the metric threshold. Our county level is about twice of what it needs to be, and the state percent positivity rate is over 5. And then, again, we're in comprehensive distance learning. And so we'll have students enrolled in CDL assigned to a teacher and a classified assistant to provide virtual distance academic content. And then, Vonnie, can you scroll down a little bit? Okay. And one thing that we'll strike from here, again, trying to give people a solid start to the year. Again, we're going to be really into October before we could make a transition at all. So what is actually stricken is the October 19th date with that preliminary transition back to a hybrid mode, hopefully November 16th.
All right.
And what follows on the other pages is in essence, the guts of the hybrid plan that we'll be coming back to. But we cannot submit that until after we have had 3 complete weeks of clean data and then have a transitional plan out of CDL into hybrid. So again, if we get to school starting, we're into the 3rd week. We're at 3 weeks, puts us into the first week of October, starting on the 14th. Then we're talking about 4 weeks to get to the end of the quarter. So at the September meeting, we would bring back revised drafts for potential hybrid mode for the transition in November.
All right.
So Vonnie, can you throw up the middle school one, please? All right, so scroll a little further, get past the green because that's CDL. And then again, we've been going through and trying to use, again, we're on the same communicable disease protocol plan, same basic screeners. All the hot links go to the additional tools that we have from county or state health that we've loaded to the website. So all of these are active links. Can you scroll down a little more? Keep it going. I have a feeling, Mr. Mole, I think took off all of my my highlights and my yellows and my reds. That's okay.
I took out the red, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but again, we've gone through and basically have the same annotated version. The only difference between any of the operational blueprints for the building really winds up being the minor variations in the schedule of the day. So.
All right. So once again, as Mr. Groskoyak stated, this is informational only, so we don't need to take any action. Are we wrapped up on that one, Mr. G?
Can we ask a couple of questions?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there were 3 things that came up for me as I read through the plans. First of all, in the attendance guidance, it says that that students have the option to self-determine if they're at risk, and it doesn't mention about whether or not that determination can be made if they have family members that are at risk. I know we have a lot of students who live with grandparents, and maybe the student might not have a health risk, but their grandparents would. Is that accommodated in the guidance?
Yes, again, so and depending upon where you read it in the section is that a student can self-identify as high risk because of their health or health concerns for someone in their direct household.
Okay, all right. The next one was there was a fairly big emphasis placed on ventilation. And I noticed that Mike mentioned that there's been some modification of windows in the elementary school to accommodate fresh ventilation. Do we have other classrooms with no potential for opening windows, or have we addressed that?
We do have a couple rooms at the high school where we would put them in alternative areas, just because they're centrally locked in. And again, the number one, issue with, this virus is that fresh air. If you can increase your fresh air intake as well as open a window and open a door, that is the best recommendation for addressing, aerosols in your room. Fans are not, because fans actually spread what's going on.
Right.
You need air to literally change the humidity, which is the issue.
I know there are also air filtration systems, portable air filtration. Would that be a possibility if a place with no windows was going to be used?
Um, to some degree, yes. The problem is I've been through this with OHA and the and county health. The units that you can get that people are buying, these HEPA filter, UVC. It's not that the technology is not unproven. Those small commercial units don't have the capacity to do what we need.
Okay.
And some of them, again, are a little cheaply made. And so the first time one gets knocked over or kicked or whatever, people are going to get, they're going to get radiation burns from the UVC lamp that's inside when the case cracks. We're actually,
Okay, well, I just wanted to note that. Oh,
yeah,
just wanted to note that as a concern.
yeah. Well,
And
there's
then
a
the
couple-
third one, if,
Go ahead.
okay, yeah, the third one I want to mention, it talked about disinfecting drinking fountains. And in almost all the places I've seen, they just block off drinking fountains because that's such a potential problem area. And I guess I would suggest thinking about that instead of making them available, because kids can bring a portable water device, you know, to carry their own water with them. That would certainly be preferable.
So I don't know where that note is in Mike's plans, but we've gone through and we're retrofitting a bottle filler station in every hallway. They make adapters.
Right.
We're not actually using the water fountain. There'll be a dispenser. And then in places where we can't retrofit because it's too old, we'll have a water bubbler, a regular water cooler for kids to fill.
Super, thank you. Okay.
All right. Those answer your questions okay there?
Yes, yeah, there were a few typos. I'm gonna send those to Vonnie.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Groskowiak. So let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is community eligibility provisions. And this one, if I'm not mistaken, we will be asked to take action on. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is correct.
So, Mrs. Blake?
Okay, good evening, everyone. The community eligibility provision, or CEP, allows eligible districts and schools in income eligible areas to provide school lunch and breakfast for free to all students using a simplified meal counting and claiming method. Schools or districts must have a required percentage of their students identified for free meals and must agree to serve free lunches and breakfast to all students. They must also agree to cover the cost of providing free meals to all students above any amount provided by the federal and state reimbursement, with non-federal funds if needed to maintain a positive balance in the nonprofit school food service fund. Identified students are those students who receive free meals that are directly certified through the state, foster students certified through means other than an application, homeless, migrant or runaway students, Head Start, Even Start participants, and then recipients of the food distribution program on Indian reservations. Administration recommends electing a community eligibility provision to provide free breakfast and lunch to all Siuslaw students.
All right, thank you. Before we move on to a motion, does anybody have any technical questions, clarification questions of Mrs. Blake on this before we start to take a motion and discuss the merits of the motion itself? Any technical questions or anything like that, clarification? All right, hearing none, then I would ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, be it resolved that the Siuslaw School District Board of Directors approve the community eligibility provision as presented, resolution number 081220-7.5 community eligibility provision, the CEP.
All right.
Second,
I heard Director Burns make the motion and Director Mann-Heinz with the second. And with that, then, is there any discussion on the motion at all?
I'm just really happy we're doing this, Carrie. Thank you for all the time and energy you put into figuring out so that it would be possible.
Absolutely.
Ditto.
I see lots of jazz hands out there. All right. If there's no further discussion, I would ask. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. I hear no dissents, and so motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Terry, thank you very much, as Suzanne said, for a lot of hard work.
Thank you,
Next
guys.
item is Internet Access Subsidy Reimbursements and Program for Comprehensive and Hybrid Learning, and Superintendent Griskowiak. You're muted. There you go.
08122076. With current health crisis impacting how schools may deliver instruction to students, internet access at home is critical for each and every student. Current state health metrics have determined that comprehensive distance learning will be how the vast majority of schools operate to begin the upcoming school year. By adapting the free and reduced lunch eligibility criteria, a needs-based subsidy reimbursement can be determined to assist families of students to address the cost of internet access at home based upon a function of economic need. The service reimbursement model does not determine the type of internet access. The service type and provider are at the choice of the family based upon what service is available in their home location. Families would be reimbursed a portion of the internet service cost that they have selected for their home. Three different draft options are presented, each with a unique level of needs-based reimbursement. Any of the draft options can be modified to fit a program the board feels best fits the needs of the district. Administration recommends the board approve a program that provides assistance for home internet access during times of comprehensive or hybrid learning.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any technical questions of this proposal for Mr. Griskowiak? All right.
Is Andy going to talk about the different options, or is that coming up?
Well, if you would like him to speak about the three options,
Just
yeah.
the main difference between them would be
Okay.
awesome.
All
Yeah,
right,
that's
so,
a great idea. Thank you, Director Burns.
So again, in the proposals are in essence the same. And what we've done here is in draft A, we've changed in essence the subsidy thresholds. In draft A, if some were to fall in the guidelines at the federal poverty level, they would be eligible for 100% subsidy up to $50, I believe was the max the board had stated. And that's down below in the matrix. There is a B column where somebody could get 75% subsidy, a C column where a group could get 50% subsidy, and then a D column where somebody would qualify for a 25% subsidy. And in essence, in this model, there's some portion of subsidy for everyone regardless of income, okay? In draft B, because again, we look at, and again, since we're moving to community eligibility provision, typically free and reduced lunch is based on a function of 3 times the federal poverty level. So in B, you have an A column for 100%, a B column for 75%, a C column for 50%, and then if you're beyond 3 times the federal poverty level, there would be no subsidy. And then in draft C is probably the most economical choice. And again, it is the same as B, except it goes 75%, 50%, 25%, no subsidy. Those are the only substantive differences between it. Just adjusting, trying to anticipate where the board would want to set the threshold for how much is reimbursed based on financial need.
Have you discussed or any guesses on the possible economic impacts of any of these three?
So yes, if we If we reimbursed everybody the maximum amount of $50 a month over the course of a year, that's roughly $600,000. And again, with the A draft, realistically, that's probably $400,000. And then kind of looking at where the price breaks run, moving down the chart, B would be, I think it was roughly 350,000, and then you're at about 300,000 with the C option. There's going to be people that in the A column that might qualify for 100% subsidy, but their maximum cost would only be $20. If a family qualifies for SNAP benefits and they're eligible for rescue internet, internet lifeline services through the Public Utilities Commission. And so again, that would not be a 50% reimbursement. We could reimburse the whole amount, and it would basically be $20 to $25, depending upon the service provider.
And obviously there would be no way to determine what the actual economic impact would be until after the year is over and you see the utilization.
Right. And again, because we'll have some people that choose not to apply.
Yeah.
Again, we see that, again, with the free and reduced lunch provision, where we do have people that are eligible but don't apply. And again, part of our blitz of meetings at the state level on Tuesday was meeting with telecommunications providers across the state. There are going to be some people that have an outstanding balance that's preventing them from getting reconnected. By contacting their previous provider, all previous providers have provisions for balance forgiveness. And if somebody's qualified for SNAP benefits, they can get that excused and then reconnected. For those that aren't SNAP eligible, we do have some money coming in from a private grant that would allow for assistance to clear those as well. And again, as Carrie and I have kind of looked at this, we've got some dedicated money coming from the state. I believe it's about $122,000 that we could use directly for providing some sort of internet access for people at home. And again, we do have some emergency provisions right now while people get their home situation settled. Carrie, did you say we have 30 hotspots to provide for people that have cell access?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So
And they will come with an unlimited data per month on those.
Okay, perfect.
I lost my question here. Oh, how would the process work? Would the district be making direct payments to the internet service provider, or is this going to be paid to the family?
If somebody is connected on internet through CenturyLink has a program where we can pay directly. Spectrum was not part of the conversation yesterday, but the Comcast rep did mention that Spectrum has a similar kind of group payment program, where in essence the district buys internet service and provides families with a code, and so the district is billed directly. There's going to be some people where, again, let's say you're out in a real rural area and you can only get internet access by satellite. What I've written in the draft policy is that someone would provide a monthly statement to show that they'd paid, and then we would reimburse whatever function they get based on that.
Yeah. I would imagine there would be some households that would be able to pay up front and then get reimbursed, but there are other households that we all agree that that would be a financial struggle for them.
Right. And again, that's something I think we could work on an individual basis. And again, I do have an information request into Spectrum because again, they're one of the larger providers in the area about how we get direct access codes to give to families so that they can get hooked up without having to go through their process.
Okay, so that would be like somebody, if we approved the 100% option and that somebody qualified for that, that's when they would use that. They would just use the special code and then we would pay the bill direct.
Right, and then we would pay the bill direct.
Okay.
And again, the telecoms group is they're fairly receptive to what's going on and do want to work with schools, to make sure that students have access.
Yeah.
And so again, some of it is going to be incumbent upon people to get a hold of their current or past provider to see where they stand in terms of their billing eligibility.
Right. I was pleased to see that you're including staff in part of this program because we put demands on staff when they were working at home, and in the future there'll be some working from home, and so providing some assistance. That's probably adding some data costs to some of us for having to do that.
And so again, in the cover page, we had to make it really clear that if you've got a student enrolled in school, you're a parent first.
Yeah.
You're applying as a parent. Again, if you're a staff member that must work from home due to medical or childcare considerations, you can make an application based upon income level, number of persons at home,
right?
How a student enrolled. And again, if you don't have those, but you're still working from home, you would qualify for 50% as well. And so again, people do we're not leaving the staff out on this because the next few months are going to be wild new territory.
Yeah.
Again, while it would be preferable for as many people to work in their classrooms as possible, because again, we're going to have a little more robust network with healthcare and childcare issues. It's just not going to be practical for every single person to report to campus every day.
Right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Gruskoak. Any other technical questions or clarification questions?
Yeah, I had one.
Yes, Director Burns.
How is it through the state that salary levels or income levels are verified, or how do we do that?
Direct benefits are that's already taken through state. Everybody else, it's an honesty stealth report. Basically, if you go to the grid and circle your value, we're not asking for your tax returns or a W-2 or anything like that.
Okay.
So it's a bit on the honor system. Bonnie, can you roll up a little bit to the grid, please? Keep going. And stop. Okay, so again, we're just asking for people to pick where they are on that level, and then can you scroll down? And a little bit more. Really, all we're asking them to do is circle by their level. Are they column A, B, C, or D? And then their internet cost, multiplier ratio, reimbursement not to exceed $50. People will be on the honor system.
Okay. Appears to be a pretty simple application form as well.
Yes. And again, as we were kind of getting this together, you notice the one thing that is clearly missing is your name, your student's name, and address.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions, clarification on this matter? Just to wrap up, basically, then we have three options to consider here. I mean, basically two questions. So question one is, should we offer this? And then the sub question of that would be, if so, at which level? And Mr. Gruszkowiak, just feel free to chime in if I miss something. We have the three options. Number one, all the criteria for the four differences are the same. Poverty level, guideline at set level, twice the set level, 3 times the set level, or beyond the 3 times the set level. Option one is 100% subsidy for the highest award, 75% for column B, 50 for column C, and 25% for column D. The difference between 1 and 2 is column D goes to a 0 subsidy. And then on into 3, they start at 75% subsidy for column A to 50 to 25 and no subsidy. So that said, is everybody clear on what we're looking at here? I would entertain a motion and we can discuss the merits of that and move on from there, if that's okay.
Mr. Chair, be it resolved that the Siuslaw School District Board of Directors adopt the option draft C of the Internet Access Subsidy Reimbursement Program for comprehensive and hybrid learning for the 2020-2021 school year as presented, Resolution 081220-7.6, Internet Access Subsidy Reimbursement Program.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Director Manheinz to approve this resolution at, I'm going to call it Schedule C, and which, just to clarify, Suzanne, that's the least expensive option for the district. Is that correct?
I just felt like that column of 100% was unnecessary because those people are just going to get it. So it was just a matter of economizing how many numbers were on the page.
Gotcha. And seconded by Director Burns. So the motion is before us. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Commissioners? Commissioner Pimlott, do you have any thoughts on this? Or Director, excuse me?
No, I'm ready to vote.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, just and I don't know why it's, you know, and maybe it's just a number thing, but it seems to me like if you're making over households making over $100,000, that there should be a cap on what we fund. I don't know why that number sits with it. It just seems like that's once that you get to that
Yeah.
we should cap it at that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion on the motion? All right. Hearing none, we'll ask for all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous. And thank you very much for your work on this, Superintendent Gruszkowiak and Ms. Blake. So you have your charge. Moving on now to Superintendent Communications. Does anybody have any questions or follow-ups for Mr. Gruszkowiak on his reports? Other than to welcome the new band teacher?
Let me unmute myself here.
Yeah, there you go.
First off, new hires. Cody Kiesling, our band director. He'll be a first-year teacher coming to us from the U of O. Also, we've got a transfer position. Brandon Bailey is moving back to patrol. And And so Officer Haley Rockwell will be serving as the school resource officer this fall.
Okay.
And then Vonnie, can you scroll down a bit? So again, we've kind of reviewed this in the pre-session. We're in CDL based on the red numbers right now. State positivity and county case rate. And again, we do have a bit of a sporadic spread in Lane County now. The last 2 weeks, it's been between 30 and 35%. So it'll take a little bit of time for that to settle. So Bonnie, can you scroll down again? Again, we've already taken care of Division 22 standards with the modified calendar. We'll be meeting instructional time, and the school and the ODE is basing their calendar on their calculations on a 165. We'll actually be at 167. So Vonnie, can you scroll? Again, I broke these out by minutes per day before yesterday's ODE meeting. So our actual value time is well exceeds the state value. So we've got room to move if we need to when we get back into the regular classroom for other options. So. And again, we would need to look at the data for metrics. Again, October 13th, October 20th, October 27th. Make sure that would be our first clean 3 weeks. This gives us a 2-week notification to get everybody up and ready to roll back to the classrooms on November 16th. So that would be it for my notes and report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or follow-up for the business manager communications in addition to what Ms. Blake has presented us? Carrie, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I do. I just saw that at the legislative level, it looks like they are going to hold at the 9 billion level for the state school fund. So that's really good news for our budget this year. I believe it said the governor has until September 9th, I believe, to veto. So we'll keep our fingers crossed until then.
Mhm.
And then I did have some other really exciting news. I think Mr. Kraskowiak may have briefly mentioned it in a previous meeting, but we did receive a grant for 350 Chromebooks. And the grant press release has come out and I've been asked to share with you guys. It's the Creating Learning Connections grant. And I'll just read a little bit about them. To address the issues of the digital divide intensified by the COVID-19 pandemic, CDWG, Intel Corporation, and the Lego Foundation have partnered with First Book in the Creating Learning Connections grant. This grant provides holistic learning support designed to fuel education during this critical time by supporting several thousand students and families in Title I schools in the United States impacted by the pandemic. Students will receive critical at-home and in-the-classroom learning resources, including internet connectivity, technology devices, and hands-on STEAM learning solutions from Lego Education. Through this initiative, Intel and CDWG are providing a total of $5 million in personal computers, software, configuration services, and digital learning resources. They're also providing stipends of $4,000 to each awarded district to address home internet connectivity for kids in need. Additionally, the Lego Foundation is donating $2 million worth of Lego education solutions to support STEAM learning at home and in school. The solutions are designed to strengthen students' 21st digital skills by engaging them in real-world problem solving. Whether in a remote setup or a classroom, Lego Education Solutions provided guided experience to build student confidence. Districts will be invited to choose from 3 age-appropriate solutions to support STEAM learning for grades 2 through 8, Spike Prime, Simple Machines, and Simple Powered Machines. In addition to this generosity, those who did not receive an award received $41.5 thousand in resource grants to purchase new books, ebooks, and other educational resources from the First Book Marketplace. This was a grant that was brought to my attention by Shannon Graham at the elementary school. She asked about helping get some information together to submit this. And I have to tell you, when she first asked, I was definitely willing to help. I thought it was a little bit of a pipe dream. And so it was really, really exciting to hear that we got this grant. Mr. King helped work on this as well, and please jump in if I've missed somebody. Shannon, of course, Carrie McNeil, Vicki Rankin, Tamara Carpenito, and Mr. Merle all collectively submitted this grant and were successful. So again, we received those 350 Chromebooks, the $4,000 for internet connectivity, and I was able to verify that for families who have bills in arrears so they cannot get hooked up again, this $4,000 can help pay those bills, which is really awesome. And then we were also awarded 4 simple machines for the STEAM program, the Lego kits for grades 2 through 5, 3 simple empowered machines for grades 6 through 8, and then 7 Spike Prime kits. And Mr. Molle may have to explain a little bit about what that is, but it's really, really exciting. We were only 45 districts out of the nation, one of 45 districts out of the nation who received this grant.
Wow.
So much appreciation. And
Yeah.
Shannon is going to be heading up, some media and getting some information out on our Facebook pages and stuff. So look out for that. And I will be sending you an email on how you guys can join First Book if you're interested.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right.
That sounds like a good news article.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Shannon's right on top of it. She's working on that press release
Yeah.
for us.
So an additional 350 Chromebooks, what does that bring our total to approximately?
Oh goodness, Andy G, I just asked Chris Robotham this. That puts us at about what, 1,400-ish?
Okay,
1,300 is what they told me.
13.
No, actually, no, it was I believe it was closer to 1,900 total, because we were wanting to get staff set up with a Chromebook each and also have some extras as well.
All
Yeah,
right.
because we had 400, we bought another 170 at the end of the year, then we got another 900 plus this 350. We're going to be close to 1,900.
Okay. All right. So there's more than enough for every student, and staff will have adequate, and a few left over for when somebody drops theirs.
And do we anticipate them being available at the start of school, or is there a delay? I thought there was a delay in shipment on some of those.
They're in process and being shipped now, and we should have them in the next 2 weeks. And so we should have everything unboxed and ready to distribute that orientation week of 8/11 to, or 9/8 to 9/11.
That's
Okay.
great.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for doing that work.
Absolutely. All right. I did not see building administrator reports. And I figure it's because it was the time of year. Is that correct? So I don't have any questions of the administrator reports.
Can I just ask how registration's going?
Ah, great
I
question.
know it's happening this week, and I've just wondered.
Mr. H, would you like to talk to that after you unmute?
It's been slow. It has. I think we're at about 120, 125 students have registered so far over the first 2 days. And we're hoping for a whole lot more tomorrow after the full day. We'll certainly be reviewing whether or not we need to add another time next week. But after today, it doesn't really require specific appointments. I'm sorry, specific events for people to come in. They can come register anytime.
This is a walk-in basis.
Yes. We did the big event to try to avoid the walk-in and try to keep as much traffic out as we need. I think if the numbers don't go up dramatically tomorrow, we'll have to have another event next week.
Yeah. How about
we did move things a week earlier, so we're thinking that might have an impact on the number of people who are coming.
Sure. How about the high school or the middle school, Ms. Merle?
Slow and steady. It's just kind of a constant trickle of people.
Okay.
Yesterday at the high school was a little slow. Today we picked up a bit. I think we're right around 200 at the end of day 2.
Oh, that's pretty good. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to board chair communications. I'll just drop in. we tentatively have a work session for August 26th. It's something that I really feel is important before we start classes. From 4 to 8 p.m. We'll be doing it Zoom wise, and I'll get you some more information out, but we do have a couple outside folks that have indicated they are available to help facilitate and help us talk through a couple things. Next regular meeting is on the 16th of September, 2 days after distance learning begins officially. Note that is the third Wednesday, which is the norm. We usually wait until the third Wednesday of the month in September. And moving on to that, I would ask for anybody who has any acknowledgements or communications from directors. I'll call on Director Pimlott first. Do you have anything you would like to comment on?
I don't. I don't really have anything.
Thank you. Director King?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so I'll jump in. I wanted to say how pleased and how, I'll just use the word excellent. I thought that the forum on Monday night went. That was, to Mike and Carrie. I don't know how they were juggling questions, and I thought it was very smooth, very informative. I'm not sure what kind of feedback you've gotten from the public, but I listened in and I thought it was done very, very well, and it was excellent. So shout out kind of a deal to those two for pulling that off. And Mr. Merle jumped in there a number of times too. So it was good.
All right. Let's see. Director Mann-Heinz. Do you have any comments, Suzanne?
Yeah, I'm impressed with how hard everyone's working to get all the systems up and running and get materials and curriculum and everything ready to go. And I particularly wanted to mention that we have a team of hardworking staff who are trying to tackle the childcare issue and are putting forth a lot of effort to try and make arrangements so that staff have childcare, because at this moment in time, there's not much available in Florence for that. And taking care of kids is got to be a #1 priority for all of us. So thank you to that staff that's working on that project.
Okay. Director Barnett, do you have anything to kick in?
No, not really. Just it's definitely apparent that staff and administration have been working exceptionally hard, pulling all this together. I mean, we're seeing, input from seeing the grants we're getting. Kudos to Board Member Dennis on that as well. So just like I said, I mean, great job. And it's really interesting to see how everybody pulls together in such unusual times we're going through. So this is really historic times we're living in. So this is pretty interesting to watch.
We're learning a new normal, that's for sure.
Yeah, yes, we are.
Thank you. And my favorite Vice Chair Burns.
I just wanted to second what Suzanne said about appreciate staff chasing down the childcare issues after we talked about it at the last meeting. So I appreciate the follow through on that. And then I was during Andy G's report, I was going to ask if there's been any discussion, with all the protests about defunding police and the SRO, getting rid of the SROs, whether we've been proactive and kind of reviewing what we do. I'm really supportive of what our folks do for truancy and that sort of thing. And I think it would be good to kind of get a word out about how ours are functioning for us and what they're doing for us, just to keep that out in the forefront, that they're really positive for our schools.
Yeah, and so again, we've got a meeting coming up with Commander Pitcher and Officer Rockwell. I think it's Monday or Tuesday of next week. And again, what our officers do is make connections with kids. And again, that's the big thing. They're part of the educational team more than anything else. And so, yeah, absolute positive.
All right, thank you. The only thing I had to add is I had a a personal interaction with a staff member this afternoon. Mrs. Jones, first grade teacher. I was eavesdropping with their permission, of course, a conversation between her and a parent. And I had heard this parent talk about her several times, and I really appreciated the way she communicated. They were talking about the student who she had not had for a couple of years, and it was very positive and very professional. And it was nice to put a face with the name, because this parent has been talking about her off and on for the last couple of years. So a big kudos to Mrs. Jones on it. So, all right. Is there any other business that needs to come before this body? All right. We have a special session set up tentatively for the 26th, and our next regular meeting will be on September 16th. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And Director Barnett moved to adjourn, and Director King with the second. And so good night, everybody. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.